So this is the Sacred Mind pod blurb, and I thought that was clever, and now I hate it. I've said it 3 times. The words pod blurb. It's just, I don't like how it feels. Anyway, talking real quick about cultivating complacency. So complacency is typically not considered to be a good thing. It's considered to be a bad thing. Something that negligent people do. Something that, people do because they're not smart, or they're not proactive, or they just don't give a shit or whatever. But I think to some extent you have to cultivate a little bit of complacency about a little bit of things or a lot of bit of things in order to have some sort of peace. Now, a lot of us will detach from a lot of things in our lives. We'll detach from love because we've had a bad experience, or, we'll detach from, I don't know. Personally, I know what things I've detached from. I've detached from I've detached from a lot of things to some extent, because it's like a survival mechanism, but it's also very Buddhist-y, because it's about attachment. Kind of cultivating that little bit of complacency is about attachment, or rather detachment, because we can't give meaning to everything in our lives and survive with all of these varied meanings and what they mean, and how that impacts us and all this stuff. We have to detach a little bit from that. And it's not so much detaching from thinking as it is detaching from assigning meaning to things. So I think just the other day, I'm trying to think, there was some kind of happenstance where I was trying to assign it a meaning, kind of like this old way of thinking was trying to assign a meaning to it and say, well, that means this. And it doesn't necessarily. It's just the fact that I have to tell myself the story of what it means so that I know where I am in the story. And I think that in cultivating a little bit of complacency, it's like I have to go, okay, well, whatever that means or doesn't mean doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter, because does it affect what's happening in my life right now? Should it affect what's happening in my life right now? No and no. And does it affect my family? No. So therefore, why continue the narrative? Why continue telling myself a story that doesn't matter, and being attached to something that doesn't matter? It just doesn't make any sense. And so we learn to release, and we learn to cultivate a concern about what really matters and release that which does not. There will come times when things really do matter. And it's kind of cool, because at some point you kind of mellow yourself out to the point where you have to remember the things that actually are impactful. But when you kind of don't have a certain amount of hysteria, like daily hysteria, you can have a clearer mind about those things and about maybe what action you should take about those things that actually do really matter. And so that's a really handy thing about cultivating a little bit of complacency. I think it's a necessary skill for us to have, to learn to not be so wound up about things. And I think, I don't know, I think it might have been Joe Dispenza who talks about how we get attached to, let's see if it comes back to me. We get attached to the stress chemicals. And it's part of like what tells us who we are is like what level of stress we're having, like how we feel. So we have to make sure that we feel the same way every day, because that means we know who we are. And that doesn't make a lot of sense really logically. I mean, it kind of does, because we need, as human beings, we need a narrative. We need a story. But I think we are too connected to our story sometimes, and we're in the story rather than observing the story. And I think it's really cool to observe the story, because it's a little bit less emotional and it's a little more logical. And I think that's a really handy way to view life and a lot of circumstances in life. And so the cultivated complacency is really important. And I think the thing is, you have to start small. You have to figure out, okay, what do I not need to sweat? What are the stupid things I don't need to sweat? Like, I don't know, ran out of toothpaste this morning could put you in a fury, and you just have to go, no, I'm not going to get in a rage about that. I'm just going to go grab the baking soda and, you know, make do, no big deal, put it on my list, take care of it, you know? And so we have to look at life a little bit more like that, where we just don't let like the little things bother us. And then we just practice with those little things, like sitting in traffic. You know, people can be really rotten on the road and dangerous, and getting angry about it doesn't do anyone any good. As a matter of fact, it does people more harm than good, because, you know, that's how road rage begins, by those little infractions, you know, that other people do that kind of are stupid and dangerous, and not a damn thing we can do about it. You know, all you can do is sit in your car and get mad. But what is that doing? Who's that serving? It's not serving anybody. And so that's another good place to start. You know, be grateful that you're in your little travel capsule, and that you have the ability to listen to music, or listen to talk, or listen to whatever. And by the way, when you're on the road, not a great idea to listen to things that make you aggravated and angry. And just, you know, be in gratitude about that, and know what you can and can't change. And, you know, it's just like the serenity prayer. It's like, have the wisdom to know the difference, and don't let the bullshit affect you. Don't let the rage that's all around you affect you, if you can help it. And it just makes life so much better. Anyway, that's it. Cultivating complacency. Hope that resonates, and we'll talk to you next time.